You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Locked On Jazz for the 22nd of September. The new arena had a sneak peek. I'll share that with you. The 5 storylines that will dominate training camp with Media Day Monday, and get to know Dante Exum. It's all coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Pow. How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Thanks very much for tuning into the program, and thank you very much for the great questions yesterday on the Facebook Live show. Always do that on Thursdays and appreciate it. Have you been to the new site, lockedonjazz.net? Lockedonjazz.net is the news site for all of your Jazz news, information, the podcast, everything else of the sort. So check it out in coordination with FanRag Sports. Hope you like it and hope you enjoy it. We'll keep trying to build it up to be better and better for you as this season goes on. Today's show, I mentioned what we're going to hit on, the 5 storylines of the season, as well as Dante Exum get to know. Monday is Media Day. Ron Boone and I will be live on UtahJazz.com for you, so make sure you get that streaming program. Monday edition of Locked On Jazz, frankly, it just might not happen. I'm heading out this weekend for a golf tournament with my daughter. We're leaving Pacific time zone flight out at like 6:30 in the morning on Monday. By the time I get back, I have to change, get down to Media Day. I'm going to just call it unlikely that there is a Locked On Jazz on Monday. So hope that's all right. We'll give you a lot of coverage, though. And then training camp starts, so it'll be awesome. Last night, the Miller family, who are just incredible. So the Millers put out $125 million to upgrade this brand new arena, and then they throw a party to thank their employees and all the people and subcontractors and everybody that worked on the event. Yeah, because that's how people work. Like that's because the Millers are incredible. I mean, that's really what that comes down to, because the Millers are simply just incredible. And it was cool. Rachel Platten played. She's really good, and she was just delightful. I called her the adult Taylor Swift, and just talking about issues and problems and real stuff like that. And as well is her music's good. She got some new hits coming out. I think they're going to be really good. So anyway, it was great. The arena looked great. The coolest part, it's hard to isolate. I mean, it just feels so different. The seats being different and blue and comforted. The new walkway in, when you come in the front, the J-Note, which will be shown on Tuesday, and then you come through and you can walk all the way straight through and look into the bottom down to the floor in this open area. And there were people all night that were just kind of standing up there looking through in kind of a social environment. It was that was the thing that jumped out to me. Super cool event. Really awesome of the Millers to put it on. The corners with light coming in. You'll see. It's great. I hope you can make it out. All right. Let me hit 5 storylines that I think will be the biggest stories of Jazz training camp. Not necessarily Jazz season, but Jazz training camp. One, I think, is health. There's a new training staff that the Jazz have built. There's new systems being put in. There's a new protocol to how they're doing everything. Frankly, other than the construction, the biggest change that has happened to the Utah Jazz this year is the training staff. That's the biggest change of all that really exists in any way. And I think it's the one the players, other than the new practice facility, which is supposed to be just through the roof, that the players will realize the most too. And they believe they have the best there is. They went to Phoenix, who has been generally thought of as having the best systems, and went and got the guy they wanted, and we'll see. So I think health, well, it doesn't mean guys aren't going to get hurt, but it's a maintenance level, it's a recovery level, It's I think Derek Favors' movement specifically. He didn't move well last year because of the bone bruise. Can they get him moving better and feeling comfortable? And again, Mike Elliott's really brilliant and Eric Waters is really good, and both of them, I don't know a lot about them. I don't know anything about medical, and maybe it just happens to be these guys got healthy. But that's the story. And so Favors, Burks, and Hood, the three players that just couldn't get healthy. It wasn't that the Jazz had a bad year in regards to having a bunch of injuries. It's that they couldn't get guys healthy. And that really is the struggle that they had, and we'll see if they can rectify that. So to me, that's storyline number one is seeing how that plays. Because can guys, one, stay healthy, and two, can they get healthy after the nicks and bumps and bruises that are inevitably a part of the season? Today's program is brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Hyundai. Super appreciate Blake and the guys. I was watching television this morning. Sup, Blake? In an ad. I'm driving the Ioniq, which is the hybrid. It's really cool. Now, we have either version 1 or 2 of the Prius, and this thing just blows it out of the water. If you're looking at the Prius, I would tell you to at least take a look at this Ioniq. Our gas mileage is through the roof. You get the 10-year, 100,000-mile Hyundai Assurance warranty. It's got pretty good horsepower, up to about 139, 140 is what I've read. And, it's depending on what you're looking at, it's anywhere from like $29,500 to $22,500. It's pretty reasonably priced. It drives really, really well. That's what jumped out to me most. Is it's just a nice driving car that happens to be a hybrid that happens to get amazing gas mileage. I was talking to Blake, and he was like, "Yeah, I got in it, really didn't know what to expect." And sure enough, the hybrid drives smooth and nicely. It's very impressive. I think I've told you about the Santa Fe before, which kind of really blew my mind on how nice that Santa Fe Sport is, starting at about 24.9, I think is what it does, up to 240 horsepower. That one really kicks it. You can load it up and get some more features on it. I've driven the Tucson as well. All of the Hyundais that I've driven are, for the value you're getting, just kind of stunning. So make sure you check it out. 4646 South State Street. If you're in the market for a car and Hyundai's not a place you regularly would say, I'm going to go for it. Add Hyundai to the list, take a check, and then you'll experience the Murdochs as well at 4646 South State Street. All right, number 2 storyline to me is Quin. What adjustments is Quin going to make offensively to try to get this team to be able to score? That to me, I think, is going to be a really interesting part of this that I don't know. Usually I've talked to Quin by now, and we have just not crossed paths. He's been busy and probably has better things to do to talk to me. But usually I, by this point, have some sort of idea of what is going on and what goals he has. But how are the Jazz going to score? What is Quin doing with the system to be able to get points? Is it going to be screening and passing and movement? And then at the same time, if that's what it's going to be, how are we going to pick up tempo at all? And are we going to be able to pick up tempo if that's what we're doing? Or are we trying to sneak ways to sneak baskets out when you get good defensive plays that create turnovers? We were a low turnover team. Will Quin change what we're doing defensively with Ingles, Cephalosha, Gobert, Exum, Mitchell into a more aggressive on-ball defensive team? Last year, we were the 3rd best defensive team in the league. There's nothing wrong with what we were doing, but for our personnel, kind of the game was to sit back in a shell, take people off the 3-point line, roll them into Rudy, and make them defend, take shots. They are low percentage shots. We did a very good job playing money ball defense, and we became the 3rd best defense in the league. Now, we were the 3rd best defense in the league last year while being very low in forcing turnovers. We were 21st in the league in forcing turnovers. fourth best defensive rebounding team and great against the shot. Is it worth maybe losing some of those other aspects to create more turnovers because they create more offense? These are the things that I'm really curious to see in what Quinn does in those regards. Those are the kind of the debates that I think this team's going to have. And it's going to be curious to see where Quinn decides. So my storyline number 2 is Quin Snyder and what he's doing. My storyline number 3 probably plays into this. It's Ricky Rubio. And what does a true point guard? We have not had one in a long time. There are not many in this league, frankly. Rubio averaging double-digit assists for the second half of the season last year. The only other guys that are kind of doing things like that are Russell Westbrook and James Harden, and I'm not sure they're in that same kind of class. John Wall probably is, and then Rubio, it's at 9, and you slide down pretty quickly. Draymond Green, frankly, comes out about 5th or 6th in the league in assists, and T.J. McConnell at 6 assists a game rolls into the top 10 with Elfrid Payton. So having a guy who can average 10 assists a game is what does that do to the Jazz? And particularly, Rubio is the only guy who averaged more than actually, he's the only guy other than T.J. McConnell who averaged, 11 points while averaging, I think, over 5 assists. Most anybody else has the ball in their hands the whole time, completely looking to score, and then if it doesn't happen, they dish it out. And Draymond might be the exception, and same thing with T.J. McConnell. So they're just a very, Kemba gets 5.5 assists a game, but 23 points. And so Dragic gets 20 points a game, but 5.5 assists with 20. Like, they're not looking first to pass; they're looking first to score. Rubio's looking first to pass. What's that impact? I have very little understanding of that. And what is it? What is that going to do to the Jazz? And can Rubio impact the Jazz pace of play? That's the one that's going to be curious for me. Is can Ricky Rubio find a way to impact the Jazz pace of play? And is that realistic? But if you look at Rubio's teams that he's played on so far in his career, when he's kind of played, he played 41 games his rookie year. He comes back from the ACL. So if you go to kind of 13, 14, and Rubio's got to avoid these catastrophic injuries, right? Like he keeps having these tough things where he misses huge chunks of games. But if you look at the 13-14 season with Rick Adelman as the head coach, their pace of play was 4th in the NBA. In the 12-13 season, when Rubio came back from the ACL and played 57 games, their pace of play was 11th. His rookie year, which is hard to tell because he's playing so well, and then tears his ACL, halfway through the year. Their pace of play was 4th in the league. So this was a pretty good pace of play. Then the coaching, if you watch Rubio's career, so 13-14, they're 4th in the league in pace and play. In 14-15, now as Flip Saunders as a head coach, they're 11th in the league in pace of play, 25th in the league offensively. They were terrible. He didn't play as much that year. I think he got injured. 15-16 now, he has Sam Mitchell as a head coach, which is now a totally different system. So I guess the other question on Rubio here is what does he actually get as coach? They were 20th in the league in pace of play. And then last year, 16-17, with now his 3rd head coach in 3 seasons. They were 25th in the league in pace of play, 10th offensively. So Rubio has not had a consistency that he dictates pace of play. It's more of what his coach does. And this will be his 4th head coach in 4 years. Crazy. So I think that's a huge storyline. Storyline number 4, to me, is the versatility. I am lost on how different guys are going to be used, what the different lineups are going to be. And I don't know that we see it in the preseason. I don't know when. This one might be a season thing. I don't know when we get this answer. Is Jerebko a 3, 4, or 5? Is Joe Johnson a 3 or a 4? Does it matter? Does Alec Burks play? Does Alec Burks play with a small lineup? How do Dante and Donovan work? Do they play together separate? Does Joe Ingles have to complement them to calm things down and keep them under control? Very, very interesting aspects of things on the versatility of the Jazz. And the final one, which is also our get-to-know today, is Dante Exum. And I think the expectations have to stay realistic here. But this was his first basketball offseason. All the research I did off of ACL work showed that it was All-Star break no matter when you had the injury. It was post All-Star break that you suddenly came back to being a player. Post All-Star break, Dante shot 41% from the floor, 34% from three, 75% from the free throw line, average 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, was a better player. That March stretch was probably the best of his career, 44% from the field, 37% from three. True shooting percentage over the league average. Went to the line 27 times in 15 games. He was just a totally different player. Can the March Dante Exum play? That, to me, is what will be most interesting with Dante. So those are my 5 storylines. Now let's do our get-to-know with Dante Exum. Some interesting conversation here, plus some fun childhood things, and then the grit angle that we've been taking with all of our players. If you want to advertise on Locked On Jazz, you can email me at dlock09@gmail.com. You'd reach a male audience between the ages of 18 and 54. And about 80% of it inside some other specific demographics, 97% male. Podcast listeners are 60+% more likely to interact with sponsors than other forms of media, so we'd love to help you out if we can. We do all of our advertising based on listen numbers, so we think it's fair. Feel free to email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Here is Dante Exum.
Time to get to know Dante Exum. If you took me back to your hometown, where would you take me and what would you show me?
My hometown, where would I take you? I don't know. I think definitely, obviously my home, probably, and then probably my school, my first school, which was just around the corner where I'd walk every day. And then probably to my first rep basketball stadium where I used to get up at 8 a.m. With my dad as the coach, and where it started.
I believe there's 2 of you in the family, you and your twin sister. Are there any and a brother? That's right. So what was the kind of the competition amongst the kids like, and what was that all like?
Yeah, it was a lot of competition. I think my sister didn't really step into it until we were older, but me and my brother always butted heads, and I remember just being in the backyard, and we had a little basketball hoop, and my brother would, we'd play one-on-one, and my brother would beat me, and I would always run in crying to my mum and dad, and, saying that, he beat me, he was rough. But now I started to have a bit more competition with my sister. I think it was the first competition I had with my sister was, who would represent Australia first. And, I was glad it was me. But, she got it, I think, a year later, so.
And she's a great track athlete, right?
Yeah, she actually did it for gymnastics at first. Yeah.
Wait. I need this story about her. Yeah. So what did she do? She's represented the country in 2 different sports?
Yeah, she hasn't represented the country in track and field yet. But, yeah, so she was, they have, a top 20 type thing for all Australian gymnasts, and she was a part of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much older is your brother than you?
2 years.
So he could beat you up. And when was the first time you ever beat him?
Could beat me up.
Yeah, when was the first time you ever beat him?
First time I beat him, I think we were both kind of young because, I kind of caught him on height. So we're about the same height now. But, the best story is when I first beat my dad. I haven't played him one-on-one since because, I'm trying to keep that. But, if you ever ask him, he'll always say, he can have that one because the record is for him is 1 to 1,000,000. So. But I'll take that one. You're only as good as your last game.
Nice. If you took me to your childhood room, what was in your childhood? What'd your childhood room look like?
Oh, my childhood room. I shared a room with my brother. Actually, we had the bunk bed situation going on. I was on the bottom bunk, but we had video game. We play a lot of video games, so we had video game posters, and he was messy. I'll say that.
What was your first nickname?
Actually, when I came here, it was my first nickname. It was X. No one thought to think of that before I came to the Jazz. No, I think what happened was that when I first got here, Dante Jones was here, and every time someone would say Dante, and was referring to Dante Jones, I would look, just because I've never been around guys called Dante. And so I told him I had, like, you got to pick. We got to change one of their names. And he had DJ, but they were like, I'm a rookie, so we'll change you. And, you know, X kind of stuck a little bit.
Now your play-by-play announcer says X marks the spot every time he hits a 3. So why number 11?
I wanted number 7, and then some guy by the name of Pete Maravich, not a good player at all. He had obviously the retired number. So, and then I think 11 was just something I got randomly at one point, and you know, it kind of stuck. I usually like to play with 13, and my original number was 30. But I was feeling 11. You know, it was just draft night, and, you know, I just thought about it for a second. I felt 11.
As you've learned, the NBA life is more downtime than anyone has any understanding of, just empty hours. What do you do to fill all the downtime?
You know, I'm huge into, you know, video games, you know, TV shows and movies. So, you know, anything that I can kind of get to, you know, unwind and, you know, take my mind off, you know, whatever's happening in my life, just to kind of, you know, I guess enter a different reality for, you know, a little bit, just to, you know, to chill out.
What's your favorite road restaurant?
My favorite road restaurant? Oh, probably, I don't know, man. Room service? Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know.
You have to go out for dinner with Joe Ingles. I understand why you take room service.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you get on the road. I think, yeah, just sometimes when you're on the road and it's, you know, towards the end of the trip, you just, you know, room service seems like the best option.
Do you know the phrase guilty pleasure?
Yes.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, I've actually I've started to give up chocolate, but that's probably like if I was going to have it.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Because I could not do that.
Yeah, I know, it's hard. Actually, I've given up soda. So, soda's like no soda. But if I was going to have it, that's my guilty pleasure.
All right, well, sugar is the devil, so.
Yeah.
All right. These 2 books, Angela Duckworth wrote Grit, and Daniel Coyle wrote The Talent Code, and they're both different ways kind of about elite athletes or the process of getting there. What made you believe you could make it throughout the process?
Wow. I think, you know, going through it, you just, I always loved basketball and played it, and, you know, it wasn't always just about, you know, getting to the NBA and all that. And I think it was, you know, when I started, I was 15, I went to the Australian Institute of Sport, and, you know, we were practicing, you know, 2 or 3 times a day and lifting, and, you know, I think that was when I, you know, started to take it serious, and I was going against the best guys, even older than me, every day. So I think that was kind of that, you know, that time where I said to myself, okay, you know, I was doing well against them, so, you know, this is you know, something I can do and something I can strive for if I, you know, keep working hard.
You have this incredible burst. When did you first realize that, oh, wait a sec, this is different, nobody else has this?
Actually, I realized it from a young age. Just, you know, just the ability to get past the first defender. You know, I always prided myself when, and, you know, said to myself, and I've kind of gone away from it a bit, and, you know, trying to, you know, get it back. But when I used to play, it was just about, okay, you know, I wasn't even watching my defender. It was like, okay, you know, what's the weak side doing? Because I know I can beat this guy. Like, you know, so, you know, just trying to get back to that.
You look back on your journey as a kid, and maybe it's just the whole Element Institute, but where do you kind of think you were different than the other kids, or where you gave up a bunch of stuff compared to the other kids? What do you look back at where your path was really different?
You know, I don't think my path was really different. You know, I think, you know, I was, you know, a normal kid. I went through my phases, and, you know, I wanted to play Australian rules football. I wanted to skateboard. I wanted to do golf. Like, I went through stages where I wanted to do, like, you know, everything in the book, you know, a different sport. And, you know, it always came back, and, you know, my dad would always say to me, you know, what do you want to do? And it was always basketball. So I think I just made that decision, you know, when I was young, that this is, you know, basketball is what I wanted to do, and nothing really could compare to it.
It's only so appropriate we have construction going on. Are you going to hit at the golf simulator in the new practice facility? Oh,
yeah. I kind of lost it a bit, but, yeah, I'd definitely, you know, try and get it back a bit.
In the book Talent Code, they talk about deliberate practice or moments of being kind of pushed beyond your comfort level. One thing they talked about was the Brazilian soccer players who all played inside of, they don't actually play on fields. They play in these alleyways with this little ball, and all the best players are actually out of this area which don't have a field. When you think of your kind of deliberate practice, or where you really pushed yourself beyond regular practice, what are some of those moments in your career when you think about it?
No, I think for most of it, I was always on the court, always playing. It wasn't anything too wild, but I definitely agree with getting outside your comfort zone. It only helps you for when you have to get into it. And I think even looking back, we played me and my brother played 1-on-1 on a small court with a normal ring, so it was like you didn't have a lot of room to get by your guy. It was you had to beat him quick. It was like a fake this way and go by him. So I think as much as you can change it up or make the game harder, once you're playing, it just opens up everything.
What's the most difficult realm of improvement?
In basketball,
You've worked. How many jump shots have you taken?
I think the jump shot is definitely one of the hardest things because it's it's based off percentage of how good of a shooter you are, and I think if you're a 50% shooter, that might not fall your way every time, or you might be taking bad shots, and to get those game simulated shots within a practice, it's tough. I think. For me, it was always, okay, let's, if I needed to develop a pull-up jumper, it's like, okay, let's go 25 pull-up jumpers. And, for me, that didn't help me at all. I think getting the rhythm down, at first it did, but I think, it was about playing, reading the situation, where I could get it. Because, in a just a 1-on-0 situation, you don't have defenders, you don't have to read that big coming up. Or, if you're going at Rudy, he's going to block you if you're too slow, pulling up. So I think, and that's what I've been doing while we're playing pickup, just being able to have the ability to read the situation. You have a guy coming from behind trying to block you. I think that's the best way.
When you hear the word perseverance, what comes to your mind?
I think just the ability to get through anything, no matter what, in anything. I think there's going to be tough times, and you say it's a long NBA season, you're going to have some tough games, and just being able to kind of get through that and know you put in the work to be able to knock down that corner three. If it's not working one game, then then in your mind it's gonna work the next, and it's just being able to keep pushing forward and thinking forward.
On your perseverance, the ACL, or not as much time as you wanted after coming back from the ACL, what took more perseverance?
Oh, the whole lot of it. The ACL was definitely tough, but I think getting back and then being right there and not fully there. I think that's definitely one of the toughest things. But it was so many nights where it was like, okay, I didn't get on the floor. Okay, it was bike. Then, okay, shots after the game at the practice facility, or the next morning I was in there at 8 a.m. Even before we had practice, or it might have been a day off. It was just doing everything you can. So. It wasn't even about coach seeing that you're working. It was just, once that number gets called, you can go in and he has to play you type thing. So,
what makes you, on that 10th day in a row, come back into the gym?
Well, if you had a bad game, you're going to be back in the gym. I think it's just that, that drive to be great, to be better. I always said whenever I had a good game, and someone said I had a good game, it's always, okay, I did, but I could have hit that shot. I could have hit this. So I think it's just always about, thinking how you can get better.
That was the last question I was going to ask you. Did you remember the good or the bad at the end of a game?
100% the bad. I think for everyone, you remember the bad. And it's something I definitely need to get out of. But even when, even our coaches, they kind of do it a bit too. When we're watching film, we're always watching mostly we have some good clips, but, we're mostly watching bad clips. But, you can look at them as bad clips or clips on how to improve and be better. So that's like the mindset I try and take. And, it's always, I was watching film today with Lamar just before pickup, and it was, it was good stuff, and it was reinforcing, what I can do to be better. So.
All right, we're going to get you so that you have a restaurant other than room service by the end of the year.
I don't even know. I can't remember the restaurants. There was actually a good one, the Great Place.
And we went on to talk a few more restaurants, but that is Dante Exum growing up before our eyes. Fun to have that conversation. Hope you're enjoying the themed grit and talent code angle on these interviews. I think it's revealing some aspects of them we might not have heard otherwise. This has been Locked On Jazz, brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai at 4646 South State Street. The grand reopening's all going on right now, so check them out. Find out the great deals on the Elantra and the Sonatas, and be surprised by what they have to offer. We'll be back with you likely on Tuesday, or Ron and I will be live with you at UtahJazz.com for Media Day starting at 2:30 on Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day. I'll talk to you then.